guys, this is Troy from Cape Ann Conversations, and I've got a special guest today with me, Amy from Gilmore and Gilmore. Amy, I'm going to pass it to you.
Okay.
Give us a little intro as to what you do, and tell us a little about Gilmore and Gilmore as a lawyer with their firm.
Okay. So I have been a lawyer for almost 20 years now, and I primarily practice real estate, and I practice residential and commercial real estate. At the firm, we also handle estate planning matters. So Rick and Rachel that I work with can help with estate planning or litigation matters. But also, it's always good to have a lawyer on speed dial. I always tell my friends. So even if I can't represent people, I can usually direct them to somebody else that might be able to help them, especially somebody in the community. There are a lot of lawyers here on Cape Ann, as you probably already know.
Where are the offices for the Gilmore and Gilmore, and where do you operate out of?
So we have an office. Our main office is in Danvers. So Rick and his father started the firm a long time ago, and they've always been on 19 Cherry Street in Danvers. So they're very entrenched in the Danvers community. And then they opened up an office in Newburyport. We have a space. And then I opened up an office here in Gloucester on 189 Main Street, which is where I like to work out of mostly.
And you said you're commercial real estate, residential real estate,
Yes.
both.
Mm-hmm.
How is that market for you right now today?
Well, it's quiet. It's definitely quiet. I mean, volume is definitely really down. Commercial has been super quiet. I think I did a handful of commercial deals last year. Residential is picking up a little bit because rates have dropped a little bit. But, the biggest issue I think we're facing is inventory. There's just a huge lack of inventory right now. Sellers don't want to sell for a lot of different reasons. And buyers are up against, higher interest rates, which makes a huge difference in people's mortgage payments. It's pretty breathtaking, what people's mortgage payments are these days. And you hear a lot about the market, but that's like the reality. When you look at it and you see, somebody's paying $7,500 a month, with their payment, it's a lot for buyers, and it's harder to qualify these days. I mean, buyers need to be making a lot of money to be able to buy a house to live around here. So I think you have low inventory, higher bar for borrowing, so that makes it just a little. And plus, this is just the best place on earth to live. So
That's
if we're talking like just about Cape Ann, but I think that all of that's true just for like the Northeast market in general.
And that's a low off of the back of a really high high. I
Yeah.
mean, coming off of a couple years of probably some of the most intense work that you were doing, I'm sure you were busier than anyone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, during COVID, we would be doing closings and literally like handing closing packages to people in their cars, and they would sign the closing documents and then hand them back to us because interest rates were so low, right? I think maybe the lowest rate, I think I closed a loan that was like 2.9%. Very low. So and then I think there's been an adjustment for people too, like mentally they think, oh my gosh, rates were 2.9. I'm going to wait for that. Don't wait for that. That's not happening again. Like it's
And what a lot of
very
people say is
unlikely.
even if the rates go back down to 2.9, it's just going to drive the asset prices
Exactly.
back up. So
Yeah. You
it
can't
might
really.
not work out unless you get a
Yeah.
recession like we saw in 2008, which
No, I hope not.
everybody hopes not, but we'll see.
I know.
So, residential, commercial, are you typically on the buyer side? Like, are you working with a home buyer or a commercial buyer, or are you working on the bank side ever to close loans? Like the
All
actual
of that. So
lender
I
of it?
represent a lot of sellers. Sellers really love working with me. I think I do an exceptional job with sellers, so commercial or residential. So seller representation, buyer representation, and then also lender representation. So all three of those different things. It's really like a mix. I'd say almost like a third, and a third of all those different kinds of representations.
So we've just had some interesting changes in at least the residential side of buying a house with some laws that were struck, trying to get realtors more accountability with realtors or something to that effect. I'm not that well versed on it, but you might be. How has buying a house changed with some of this recent legal action?
It hasn't changed that much, believe it or not. I mean, I'm not a real estate broker, but it seems like, the seller is always the one that's offering to pay the real estate commission, right? So normally it's the seller that's actually paying the commission. What's really changed now is that the buyer's broker has to negotiate with the seller about whether or not they're giving them a commission or not. So what I'm seeing, which I had never seen before, is buyers are now contributing to a commission. So if a seller says, okay, I'm going to list my house and I've hired a listing agent and we're going to offer 4%, that's it. The buyer's broker is going to come in and say, well, want 2.5%. So I'll take the 2% from the seller, but the buyer is going to pay me 0.5%.
Really?
Yes, really. I know.
That is different.
That is different. So it's very important for me because I'm always thinking, and it's also, from experience. I mean, I think it would be tough to be a new real estate lawyer now because you really have to know all the nuances on top of, being good and knowing all the laws, but you have to make sure you're looking out for
What if
that.
What if the buyer doesn't want to pay? Like, because all of the rates could be different. One seller could say, I'm going to pay you 4%. Another
Yeah.
seller could say, I'm paying you 3%.
That's what's happening.
The buyer agent could be saying that I want 3% of every sale, but there might not be enough left. And it's like, how do you pre-negotiate that? Because now they don't have a fiduciary responsibility, I don't think, like a wealth advisor, but would they potentially not show you houses
Yes.
based on the percentage that the seller would be able to give them?
That's what people are saying. But you also have like an agreement, right? So they're going to enter into an agreement before they start looking for the house that says like this is the percentage I'm looking for. So yeah, it's kind of forcing everybody to have the conversation up front. So everything is more, in a way, I think it's supposed to be more transparent. I feel like I'm not an agent, but it looks like it's a lot more work for the agents, but I don't know,
I think that just comes off of the back of a period of time where houses were trading so fast
Yeah.
that it almost didn't feel like the real estate agents were doing any work. And that is a gross exaggeration. I'm not saying that, but I could see how people could think that. When your house had 25 offers on it
Yeah.
in COVID, and you're just like, oh my God, we sold this house one day on the market. What did you really do here? I could see how people are like, I don't think you're worth it that much money in this particular scenario. But that scenario is a very small period of time. In a normal scenario, houses would be on the market for a while, and they'd be putting a lot of time and effort and money and investment into selling that house or buying that house or going to look at 27 houses with a buyer before they buy something.
Yeah,
It just is weird.
And I think that's all very fair and true. And the other thing is, I think that even with me, like there are cases I work on that I'm like, well, that was so easy. I represented the buyer, and it was a great sale, and we earned a great like fee from it, and the client was so happy, couldn't have been more pleased. And oh my goodness, there are like other cases where I, because I always charge a flat fee because I want to be very transparent. One thing about me is I'm very transparent. You are going to get no surprises with me. I mean, things might go sideways. That's like life. But when you work with me, I always say, this is how much I charge. Here's my cell phone number. I want people to be able to reach me. I want them to know what's going on. I give them enough information, but not too much. But so sometimes with some cases, I've, just like with brokers, like I've put, dozens of hours into a case, and then you're still just getting the flat fee. So I'm sure the experience on their end, it feels like there are lots of cases where they've shown people, 100 houses and they never purchased anything. So every now and then you get one buyer that you only spent, 10 hours on, and so it all kind of evens out, if you will, in the end. But yeah, it feels like it's just making everybody's job a little bit harder, but yeah.
So right now, give us an example of some of the stuff that you're working on. What's what's a project you've done recently, like a residential multifamily house in Gloucester?
Yeah. So recently, I did help somebody in Gloucester purchase is technically a multifamily, but it also had a convenience store attached to it. So it was like a mixed use multifamily. So that was great. Already had a tenant in it that he was happy with, so he didn't need to have the tenant move out. There were two other tenants in the building that he had leave because he wanted to renovate some of the units, which makes sense. I mean, in order for a landlord to make money, they need to charge rent that's market appropriate. And I don't need to tell anybody. I mean, rents are super high right now. But there are a lot of opportunities, I think, in Gloucester and beyond where there are some underdeveloped, I guess, properties that could use some renovation. So, he was able to do that and then able to at least cover his costs for now. So that was a recent project that I worked on, and then I helped another client of mine. I do some work in Cambridge frequently. I happen to have a handful of clients in Cambridge, and she purchased a great single-family house in Cambridge that she's planning on renovating and splitting it down the middle and trying to turn it into a multifamily. So those were two interesting projects. And then I help a lot of people with, buying condos. That seems to be a common
Because there's
common
different condo association documents that need to really be reviewed because you can get yourself in a sticky situation there.
Oh.
They're increasing your dues and whatnot.
Yes, not all condos are created equal. I'll just leave it at that. They're all very, 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 very different. Yeah.
Yeah. How many people are at the firm at Gilmore and Gilmore? How many people work with you here? Just you, or?
I mean, when I'm in Gloucester, I'm kind of operating alone. But at the firm, so we have Rick, who's the principal of the firm, and his father, who is semi-retired, and then Rick's wife, Rachel. And then we have an amazing back office staff. So we have Maria, we have Alicia, who is a Gloucester gal, and we have Kathy, and they're all paralegals and really phenomenal. I mean, one thing I learned, because when I first started practicing law in 2005, I had my own practice in Salem for a long time. And I'm like, oof, I never want to do that again. It's when you're completely on your own without a paralegal. Anyway, it was a lot of work, but it made me realize how important a professional, incredible paralegal is. So the best, I think, real estate law firms have amazing paralegals, and we have an incredible paralegal staff at the firm. So when you're working with me, you're really, you're working with them too, and they do an incredible job.
I like to ask this question, and it goes both ways, but I try to start on the negative end with the positive. When you wake up every day and you go to work, what's the hardest thing that you guys are dealing with today? Is it getting paralegals? Is it the law changing so much? What is the thing that is the hardest part about your job today?
I think getting new business. That feels like it's always that's the thing I'm most stressed about. I mean, I've been through so much in life. I am a single mother with 3 kids. I mean, I teach business law at Salem State. I do so many things. The work doesn't ever feel hard. I mean, it's stressful. It's very stressful. Do not get me wrong. But I feel like the thing that stresses me out the most is, making sure we have enough business, making sure we have enough clients coming to see us. So that feels like it weighs most on my mind.
And you're typically getting the majority of your business through referrals?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about just doing good work for your clients, and they tell somebody and coming on these great podcasts and getting new people to hear you and starting a new relationship.
Yep.
And I'm sure as the real estate picks up again, it'll be a flywheel. It'll keep going.
I think so.
On the other side of the coin, what's the best part about waking up? I mean, you got to be making some people's dreams come true, right? With getting their houses or making their business, move forward and acquiring their piece of commercial real estate they're operating their business out of or whatnot. But what's that thing that every day you're like, man, this is the reason why I do this?
I love helping people. Honestly, when I went to law school, I'm a big helper. I always wanted to. I want to help people. I want to, be there for people during a difficult time. So it's very stressful buying and selling homes. I think when you're not like in it the way that I'm in it, people are leaving homes that they've lived in for 25 years. No wonder they're stressed, they're sad, they're emotional. They need help reviewing a purchase and sale agreement because that's a very emotionally fraught like situation, and I love being able to help guide people through that. And I have to say, I have a lot of clients that are like, "Wow, I really loved working with you. You did an awesome job. You treated me like family," and that to me is that's important. That matters to me.
That's probably why you do that work at Salem State then, I would imagine too. Like teaching law
Yeah.
to the next generation, right? How's
Yeah.
that going? I've been thinking about the idea because I do a lot of entrepreneurial work. I've got my vending machine business. I've got my e-commerce business, and I love entrepreneurship, and I'd love to
Oh my gosh,
teach
you should be a
entrepreneurship.
guest. You want to be, well, anyway, we can talk about that later. You should be a guest in my class. Yeah, it's cool there. Some of the kids, it's what you would expect. Some of them are like, you're like, what the heck are they even doing here? And then there's a good chunk of them that seem really, interested and excited. But I love teaching. I was a high school English teacher before I went to law school. So I've always loved teaching, and it's fun to teach them about small business and entrepreneurship. I think it's a very important thing to teach people about. I mean, you and I were kind of chatting a little bit about, I'm not going to say the name of the company with a capital A, but it's important for people to support small business and to understand how entrepreneurship works and like what the trajectory of that's going to look like, where we live and in the country, in general. And as a law firm, you do have to pick local because we practice Massachusetts law, but there are other companies out there that offer legal services. And if you listen, you know what the disclaimer says? This is not a legal service. It's like, okay, don't go there for your estate plan. Don't go you know what I mean? So so I'm happy teaching at Salem State. It's fun.
The best way that I always explain that is the Magnificent Seven, they call them, the Microsofts, the Teslas, the Amazons, the Googles, them all. They're not going to pay for your football team or baseball team's jerseys, in your local town league. It's the local businesses. It's the Virgilios. It's the Jungle Stuff, who prints the T-shirts in Essex. It's those local businesses that everybody comes to get the donations to be able to support the local teams and fundraisers and everything. So you have to support them back. Otherwise, they're not going to be here to support you.
And right, if you don't put money in their pockets, they don't have money to be out in the community, go out to dinner in downtown Gloucester. They're not going to have money to do that. So people have to make a really concerted effort to get out into the community and support these small businesses. So I've loved the launch of this series because I've learned some new businesses where I'm like, okay, I could go someplace else, but I'm going to go there because first of all, I liked what they had to say, and I want to make it a real conscientious effort to support local.
Yeah. You guys are going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not going to be there.
No, they won't.
So if somebody wanted to work with you, when would they engage you? Like if you're going to go buy a house, is someone coming to you after they've already locked up a lawyer? Or is there any advantage to coming to you maybe before that? When would somebody come and sit down with you and say, this is what I'm going to start to work on?
Typically, people come to me after they've already put an offer in on a property, or I get the loan after it's already kind of put together. But I think the sooner you contact a lawyer, the better. Everybody has a very different, situation, right? So there are times when you need to kind of talk through a couple things with a lawyer. Like if you were, for example, like an unmarried couple buying property together, it might make sense before you start putting offers in to talk to a lawyer to say, okay, how can we structure the deal so everybody's protected before we go and make an offer? So depending on the situation, it could make sense. And there's no harm in contacting a lawyer early. I don't charge anybody to reach out for a consultation. They can always just reach out and have a consultation with me for free, and then go on about the process, and then formally hire me when it's time to actually put an offer in or refinance a loan. So,
Yeah, as a former banker myself, I worked with lawyers a lot.
yeah.
And the one thing, if lawyers are anything, they are well connected. So if you don't have a real estate agent or you don't have a mortgage lender coming to you and having a conversation, this is what we're trying to accomplish. You know all the good realtors, you know all the good mortgage lenders. And if you're not going to charge to have a quick conversation about, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? This is my situation. You're at least going to get some advice on, hey, here's some other partners that you're going to need in this chain because I'm not a real estate agent and I'm not a lender, but I know them all.
Yes, very true. Yep.
So, reach out early. There's no
Yes.
reason why not to.
Yeah, I like that. Yep.
Good, good. So where can people find you? Give us some, I've got your card here. Where should people reach out to you? Call the cell phone number?
Yeah,
You want to give a cell phone number?
Oh my gosh, should I do that? Is that dangerous?
I'm going to do it anyways. 978-886-0795. If you want to get a hold of Amy, call her anytime. She'll answer. That just happened.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
No, I honestly,
Amy at
yeah.
gilmore.com.
Exactly.
That's the email.
Mm-hmm.
Gilmore.com is the address.
Yeah, and if you're on Instagram, it's law_with_Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Message there. It's
Yeah,
so funny.
yeah.
So many people, like on my e-commerce businesses, people will literally, they won't email. They'll message me on Facebook Messenger. I had a guy in Australia yesterday be like, I bought a wallet from you as of 2017. He's like, and I wanted to get a new one, but it was not set up for us to order from Australia anymore. It wasn't in 2017 either. And I was like, dude, I'll take care of you. Just tell me where and when. I'll send you an invoice and we'll get it to you.
Yeah.
So it's like Facebook Messenger was more powerful than, it's wild.
Well, everybody has their own preferred way of communicating, right? Some people like to text. Some people only want to call. Some people like to email. Some people like to DM you, right? So I think it's just about, every human's a little bit different in how they, like to communicate. I mean, the cell phone for me is the best because I'm here, there, and everywhere, so they can definitely, reach me on my cell phone. So that's why I like to give it out.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can answer when you can. You
Right.
get back to people when you can.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm with you.
Exactly.
I'm always on the road, so it's like one of those things like you have to call me
Yeah.
because it's harder for me to email.
Yes. Yeah.
So, well, Amy, it was a pleasure to have you on here.
Thanks.
I appreciate your time and what
Thank
you're doing
you.
in this community.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.